Hey, all right, welcome back. It's Thirsty Thursday. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco, coming to you live from the Corona Bunker Studios in my house, hoping to get back to our New York City studios very soon. And Frankie, my partner's in his Corona Bunker studio at his house. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm hanging in there, John. Thank you.
Are you partaking in a cocktail by any chance?
As soon as I can step away. I would like to get one, but my wife is working in the other room, so I don't want to disturb her. She's on the phone and stuff. So if I'm talking to you, I haven't really had a break to go and make myself one, but I'd like one.
All right, well, I'm going to drink for the both of us by having
Thank you.
my third
Thank you.
martini of the show today. But things are going well on my end, other than I was talking to Jennifer Borcuevas this morning, and I am starting to get really antsy, like a lot of people, and I'm starting to feel like, all right, enough is enough already. You're on the street every day. You're going into the city. You're an essential worker. You're commuting in on the bus with one person. But do you think people are starting to get antsy where they're going to start flouting these rules?
That's a great question, John. That seems to be the general consensus, is that people they're getting a little bit of this quarantine fatigue, and they're just going to start doing their thing irrespective of what local government or state government says. So it seems like a real possibility. I don't know. But I think if the downward trend continues in New York, which it is, then you'll see more and more New Yorkers do that as the weather becomes nicer. A day like today happens to be a beautiful day. I wouldn't be surprised to see people trying to do things that are not in adherence with the quarantine at home rule. But I don't know. I guess only time will tell.
Now, it's becoming more and more difficult figuring out when you read stuff on Facebook and other social media what's actually true. I feel like I'm seeing stuff that I think sounds pretty credible being banned as false, like some of these doctors talking about hydroxychloroquine. And then I see other stuff out there that's not being labeled as false, like saying that the state government has no right to tell you that you have to wear a mask or you have to keep your business closed. What do you make of this, Frank? Is this stuff true?
It's true as a matter of opinion, right? I mean, ultimately, it'll be up to the courts whether a state government has the right to tell you that you have to wear a mask when you're out in public. Ultimately, it'll be up to the courts to determine whether or not, it's legal to tell a private business that they have to close. So, this is all going to be sorted through the courts. There's a number of lawsuits that have been filed already. The one that I find most interesting is the one here in New York City that Mayor de Blasio instituted, I believe, on Tuesday, along with Commissioner Shea, saying that demonstrations are banned, protests are banned. Now, this would seem to be a pretty flagrant violation of the First Amendment. Now, I don't know when the mayor took his oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution. I don't know what part of that oath gave him the ability to cross out sections of the First Amendment. So I think we're in uncharted territory here. You're seeing governments really push the envelope in terms of civil liberties violations. And you can bet there's going to be a lot of people who are eager to bring court challenges to a lot of these provisions.
So I'm looking at a Facebook post from one of my buddies, Sean Kilcullen, and he put up a picture, a screenshot of this thing that says, I'm exempt from regulation mandating face mask usage. Wearing a face mask poses a health risk to me. Under the ADA and HIPAA, I am not required to disclose my medical condition to anyone, and then cites a couple of numbers. Department of Justice, ADA violation. Organizations and businesses can be fined up to $75,000 for an ADA violation. So it seems like a lot of federal rules might be coming into, when you're talking about First Amendment rights. If someone has some kind of HIPAA condition that they can't wear a mask, and HIPAA says people don't have to disclose their medical conditions, it sounds like some of the citizens out there may have found a loophole or something.
Well, you know what? I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at the specific provisions of that, and I'm not an attorney. But, here's the problem is there's too many people that want to be a jerk. Now, we should open up society. We should let, I don't even like to use the term non-essential businesses, but we should let business reopen, and only the most vulnerable should be the people that should be quarantined. But you know what happens is we get folks now, for instance, we spoke with Aaron Elmore and Elisa before, two people that have the antibodies. They're not going to infect anyone. They could go all over town maskless, and they're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. In fact, I would argue we'd probably be a little bit better off the fewer coverings on their face at any given time.
Yeah.
But so why should those people have to wear a mask? Here's the problem. You will have people that are asymptomatic, that have the disease, that don't want to wear a mask and want to go about getting their jollies all over the place. I see these Liberate Michigan or Liberate XYZ state people protesting, and they're showing up to the Capitol not adhering to social distancing, not wearing masks, not using PPE. Some of these lunatics are even carrying guns. Now, that's the problem. These people are the reason that I have to wear a mask when I get the bus in the morning, because they are showing government that people don't have any common sense to be responsible. I'm of the belief that if we were to reopen responsibly, you'd see a lot of people take proper precautions on their own. But then I turn on the news and you see these protesting idiots all in state capitals all across the country, eager to prove me wrong.
Well, I would submit to you this, related to something you mentioned there. If Elisa and Aaron want to come over to the studio with no masks on, I may be even willing to endure the possibility of infection from them. The last thing I want to see is those two with masks on.
That's for sure. Hey, by the way, I don't know if you covered this earlier when I was in transit, but Blockbuster ruling out of the Supreme Court today, overturning the both Bridgegate convictions. And it's significant that these convictions were overturned for Bridget Ann Kelly and for Bill Baroni. But what's even more significant is that they were overturned unanimously. This is a court that is pretty divided along ideological lines. And for all 9 of these justices to say that these convictions should be thrown out, that is pretty interesting. So the Bridgegate folks, no criminal penalties for them, no prison time for them.
Frank, I wasn't up on that, but what exactly? What were the grounds that they overturned those cases?
Well, basically, they said that they did not commit fraud because they did not. They abused their power, and they didn't. The court basically said, in a decision written by Justice Kagan, that this was wrong, this was improper. These people are scoundrels. These people, probably shouldn't be in office. But they did not commit fraud, and they did not cause the government to, because they didn't get any money for this. It was not as if they were direct beneficiaries of some sort of graft. So because they didn't materially benefit, just because they abused their office, it's not a criminal violation.
All right. Well, hey, I mean, I would say one for the good guys, because as much as I felt like Chris Christie himself did have a hand, whether it was a wink and a nod or whether it was, a passive affirmation of what they suggested to him, I never felt there was really any evidence that anybody enriched themselves due to this. So it seemed to me more like another one of these political witch hunts.
Yeah, well, look, I think people were upset, and whenever you have people upset, you are going to see people in the prosecutorial area wanting to throw folks in prison. But one thing we all need to learn as a society is just because somebody does something that we don't like, or just because somebody does something bad, it doesn't mean that it's criminal. Yeah,
well, thank goodness for Donald Trump, so that we were able to restore a little sanity to the Supreme Court. But, it does make you feel good. When we were talking about a little earlier with all the gridlock going on in Washington, it does make you feel good to see a decision come out of the Supreme Court that's unanimous, that makes you feel like justice has probably been served.
Well, it makes it a little less controversial than these 5-4 decisions which overturn laws that were passed by democratically elected legislators. That's for sure.
No doubt about that. All right, Frank, we're going to take a quick break right here.